Welcome back, everybody, to the February edition of Conversations with Archbishop Kurtz. Middle of winter.
Yes, here we are, and Lent is upon us. Yeah. We have so many things that will be going on this time.
Very good. Now, we have an interesting show. They're always interesting, but a little bit different. We're going to start out in just a minute talking a little bit about, I know, one of your hobbies, which is reading.
I love
We're going to
read.
talk about some books. Then we have a special guest with Deacon Denny Nash from our diaconate office will be here. And then kind of your teaching segment at the end, I want to ask you some questions about Catholics and studying Scripture.
Yeah,
so that'll
be a little bit about reading also.
Very good, too. That's right.
Exactly.
So let's take those apart. Let's start. I mentioned that I know you're a reader. It's a hobby. Tell me how you got into reading. Why reading?
Oh gosh, I guess I from my early days I was a reader. I don't know if my family did it. I guess we all did it. My brother Georgie loved going to the library, and he would bring books home. And I guess my sister Pat, now that I'm thinking about it, did a lot of reading. In fact, that's how Georgie got going to the library. So we were just a family that loved to read. And I think when I first entered the seminary, I took Evelyn Wood's speed reading course. I don't know if that helped me out or not, but I seem to love reading books, and I seem to love reading them fast. So I love that.
Now, before the show, we asked you to identify 3 of the ones you've read more recently. They're kind of favorites. Not that the others aren't favorites, but of all the books, give us 3. So we're going to talk about 3 books today. And this is the first one, Russell Shaw's book. It's Catholics in America.
Yeah.
There's a lot in this book. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure.
And
well, one of the things,
author,
before we got talking, I had mentioned to you, interestingly enough, talk about the modern way to read. All 3 of these books I read on my phone through Kindle. So I guess many people are doing that, but it's so accessible now to be able to use your phone if I'm wherever I am.
With your eyes like that?
Exactly,
would be like, oh,
exactly.
Well, okay.
Your mind, I guess, adjusts. This particular book, Russell Shaw is a great reader, and this is a compilation of a number of great Catholics in America, going back, beginning with the first bishop, Archbishop Carroll, and coming all the way up to Flannery O'Connor. And he talks basically about 2 things. One is, how as Catholics have we become assimilated to become good Americans? Okay. And secondly, how have we maintained and retained our Catholic identity, the distinctive nature of what we contribute? And some of the people that he writes about have contributed mightily in one way and some in others. But I've enjoyed just going through the history. And here in Louisville, of course, we have people would have a great opportunities to learn more about that, of what it means to be a good citizen of heaven and of earth, a good that our political party does not come before our Catholicism, but yet our Catholicism informs us to be good citizens. So I would recommend the read, and it's really the lives of, I guess, about 25 different personalities.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Yeah. Okay, number 2, Jaber Crow. This is a local favorite. You know,
it's a
this
novel.
is Wendell Berry, is like our favorite son of Kentucky. Tell us about this book.
Well, after Greg Hillis was the one who told me about it, and I wanted to read something by Wendell Berry, and especially something that picks up the locale. His book, it's a novel, and it's about a gentleman who began thinking he was going to be a minister. He ends up being a barber in a small town. He becomes enthralled with a young woman whom he never marries. She gets married to someone else and is in a somewhat of an abusive situation. And it tells a story about what I would call sacrificial love, how he takes an interest. It's unrequited in the sense that it's not a mutual love necessarily, but I won't give away the end of the book. But it's a beautiful story about how someone gets involved in their community and in their love of people. There's a beautiful segment in which he talks about the flowing of the river, and I think there's an analogy about the way in which our journey in life and the people we meet not only helps to shape them, but it helps to shape us. So I love his style of writing. It's great.
I always think of him as a poet. Is it a little poetic in here?
Well, it is. It is. I would call it descriptive.
Okay.
It's really a pleasure to read. It was an easy read.
Now, of your three, the only one I've read is this one. This is Father Jim Martin's great book. Want to talk about the 7 last words.
Yeah, especially coming up with, it's not too long, we'll be hitting Holy Week. Father Martin writes very, very well. This happens to be the compilation of the talks he gave at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City, and it would have been Lent of 2015, so not quite 2 years ago. And I saw it somewhere, and of course I got it on my phone, and found that he has a very descriptive way of talking about the 7 last words of Jesus from the cross. And you remember, Father, forgive them. I thirst. Today you will be with me in paradise. All 7. And they are beautiful ways in which we not only enter into those final days before Jesus dies on the cross, final hours really, but also a way in which we can make the death of Jesus and his resurrection personal in our own lives. So I would commend it as being a beautiful book, and it's an easy read. And of course, I did it right on the phone, so you can, if people were inclined to do that, they could do it quickly.
I'm reminded, of course, we're sitting in St. Michael's Church, and the year before he did that, he actually spoke at the men's conference.
He did the men's
right
conference.
In this
That's
space
exactly
here
right.
too.
That's exactly
right. It's fun to see these connections made, and that's very good. Well, reading's a good education, but it's also relaxing, I assume, for you.
It is. It is, Brian. But it was a bit of an adventure. Because I think you see this especially in novels, you enter into the world of someone else. And there's also a literary aspect to it. I also read Annie Dillard's book on, I think it's called The Art of Writing. I can't remember exactly the title, but it was all about her experience of writing novels and writing essays. And so anybody who's involved in communication, in preaching, as I am, if we don't feed ourselves with good things to read, and I highly recommend the habit, we lose out on a lot.
Well, listen, thank you for sharing these 3 books. I think your favorite one we haven't covered yet, I assume that's the Bible, so we're gonna come to that in our 3rd segment when we're going to talk about Scripture. But meanwhile, thank you for this conversation.
You're welcome.
And thanks everyone for being with us. We'll be back after a short break with our special guest.